At the end of '97, I got a call from Mark Fisher, and he wanted us a partner in creating a show in the center of the Millennium Dome. I think the area that it's sort of plugged into for me, for years, I've wanted to try and get involved in an experience park. That was the concept. It was sort of an amusement park, but designed by the most interesting artists and scientists of the day. And that's a hugely ambitious and expensive project, and it's been very difficult to realize. But there's little bits and pieces that when we're working in shows or some of the multimedia things, or in this instance with the Dome, where you're working with different people from different disciplines, and you get a lot of interesting people throwing in ideas and brainstorming. That's the stuff that really turns me on. It's like being given the biggest playpen in the world, and being allowed to sort of start dreaming. So that was, I think, the hook for me. I think Mark Fisher's done some amazing work, particularly in the sort of spectacle end of rock. The Zoo TV show he did for U2, all the work with the Floyd and the Stones, for example, some very effective and I think intelligent presentations. We spent basically the first year, I guess, working on the ideas and on the visual ideas. Given the fact that we were asked to do something about the past, present and the future, it sounded all very sort of vague, and the entire history of mankind in 20 minutes. I thought it much better if we could just focus on a family, a single family, and have 3 generations of the family, and try and show maybe the conflicts and struggles between the different eras. We have the agricultural world in which some man learns to survive working with nature. The second would be sort of industrial period. Coal and steel get discovered and their use really exploited for the first time, and the huge changes that has on creating this wonderful world which ends up enslaving and entrapping the people. Act 3 is the post-industrial, in a way representing the future. There was the idea at the end that the baby Ovo, born as the sort of representative of the future, would fly off in this sort of nest. So you have this sort of organic spaceship idea, really, in a sense. So it would be a little 2001. We'd spent a long time on the story, and it was quite clear that in the 20 minutes of an impressionistic show, it was going to be quite hard to communicate some of the stuff that we'd worked on. So I've been sort of fighting for the last 2 years to try and turn it into a book, working with this French illustrator, Christian Perret. And this is it, Ovo. Yeah, one of the things that interested me a lot about the project was the idea of 2 Britons. We're going to have a traditional Britain, which would have much more sort of historical, traditional references. The folk area is something that I'm not well informed and haven't done a lot of. And Richard Evans, I think, grew up in Northumberland playing that music from when he was very young. So he helped write on the Real song. And I think, yeah, he and Simon both brought stuff in which I would not have been able to go near. And then against that, you'd have a sort of contemporary multicultural Britain, and would include Asian elements, African, Australian elements that would all help to make a much sort of fuller picture of what Britain is now. I think that was reflected in the designs and in the clothing. So that, I'm sure a lot of people miss a lot of that stuff, but a lot of time and effort went into trying to contrast those elements. Because of the brief of the project, I was led to various bits of music that I probably wouldn't normally have approached or explored. and I really enjoyed that process. And the brass was a great thing, you know, working with the players and just being surrounded by all that sound. So that's something that I enjoyed and wouldn't mind looking at again. The writing is still the thing that gives me the most pleasure. And then I think the process of the recording, bringing in other people, I think it's always sort of fresh impetus, fresh stimulus from outside that sort of are the moments that are the most enjoyable. And the sort of slog part of trying to finish lyrics, for instance, is very hard for me.
The actual live work with instrumentational vocalists is always a high point, especially just from vocals, because it's like the icing on the cake. It's like, you know, the final point of hearing a completed lyric.
One of the things really appealed to me on this too was working with different singers, because normally, you know, you only get to hear when you write something your own version of it, and the first versions of these songs were going to go out to the world, were going to be sung by other people. Elizabeth Fraser, for example, who I loved her singing with Cocteau Twins and, you know, more recently with Massive Attack, but I was very happy she was willing to get involved, and she did the part of Sophia, who's the daughter, but there's a tenderness and a sort of vulnerability in her voice which I think is very appealing.
My manager said, "Oh, Elizabeth, I think you can expect a phone call from Peter Gabriel very soon, because I think he wants to ask you about getting involved in the Millennium Dome project." So I came over to the studio and he played some things. I watched a 20-minute computer-generated film, loved all his ideas. I liked all the sentiments and thought, oh, I've never done anything like this before. This is a bit more like the sort of thing that I'm interested in or reading about or drawn to.
I looked up at the tallest building, felt it falling down. I could feel my balance shifting. Yeah, everything was moving around. These streets so fixed and solid. Shimmering haze. And everything that I relied on disappeared.
Yeah, we recorded it here, and that was just so, it just blew my mind, because I really didn't expect Peter to just start playing the keyboard and singing. I was really shocked.
When I first heard Eli Leonard's voice, I was really hit hard. I think it's a very emotional voice, and I think the sort of Gaelic introduction to the whole piece is a really soulful bit of singing.
I just love the sound of strings, and they're quite an expensive thing. So on records you work on, you're never normally allowed to do strings. And also people don't often use the room here at Real World for recording orchestras, because in London there are places like Ayr and Abbey Road which are traditionally used for doing strings. So it was great to have the opportunity here to record a large string section.
When I first heard Blue Nile, many years ago now, I was blown away by the vocals, the singing, and Paul Buchanan I've since worked with and met on a few occasions, and I was very happy that he was willing to take the main sort of Skyboy part.
Downside up, upside down. Take my weight from the ground. Falling deep in the sky, slipping in the unknown.
To tell you the truth, I didn't really know very much about it. I mean, when I got there, we just kind of walked around and talked, and beyond that, obviously Peter had written the songs, but beyond that, my participation in it was that he and I sat and sang and played, and to a certain extent, you know, let the delivery of the song develop. In the time, I didn't go in with a lot of information in advance. I knew vaguely what the story was, and the wall was covered with drawings and storylines and titles.
Falling deep in the sky, slipping in the unknown.
The father's part is sung by Richie Havens. He's, I think, really warm, lived-in, rich voice, which is what I was trying to find for the father.
Like a stale bread in the seeds are folded in the soil.
And we were introduced to this rapper Rasco through BT, who was collaborating on some of the music and production on this project. He's a sort of a virtuoso programmer. It's quite a long piece and covers quite a lot of information, and it felt like it would be much better if we added male and female voice, and Nena Cherry was willing to do the sort of female side of that. So that, if you like, is a slightly different piece to the rest of the album, but I think it does a much better job in telling the story than the album or show does left to its own devices.
Now Ion was the son who spent his nights and days looking for all kinds of ways to get his father's praise. In all daddy's ways he just wanted to impress. Bigger, faster, stronger is what he tried to stress.
Sophia was the girl living in her own world. She found love and joy with the young sky boy. Sky boys were seen as less to the rest, so it would seem. Sophia went into the woods to daydream. With love in her eyes, her own father would despise. Her love for the young sky boy he would destroy.
The Tower That Ate People was a lot of fun. I do myself the Iron, who's the sort of industrial megalomaniac of Act 2. It started really from this groove, as many of the things do, but there was a riff which was actually it's a flute, but it sounds like a sort of electric guitar, ba-ba-bam, and the fuzzy vocal, which is sort of more Dr. John area than my usual stuff, was a fun thing to play with. The other track is Father-Son song, and that had actually been written before the Dome thing came up, but because that was within this sort of family context, the relationship of different generations, it seemed like it would fit well for the Dome project.
Father, son, locked as one in this empty room, spine against spine, yours against mine.
And I'd actually gone off for a week. You know, my dad's getting on and he's done yoga for about 40 years, so I thought maybe what I should do is have a week with just the two of us and a yoga teacher, and he was keen to do that, which was great, and it was a very powerful and emotional experience for me. And so that's now sort of formed that song. And then in the show, obviously, the father is representing the first period, the agricultural period, and when he sort of dies, that's when we have this song.
Dogs, plows and bows, we move through each pose, struggling in our separate ways. Mantras and hymns.
It was quite a British moment, I think, when I first played my dad the song. In fact, I didn't play him the recording, I played it for him on the piano, and you know, I think he was quite moved. And it connected, you know, in quite a deep way with quite a few of the people working on the show. So that was you know, I think, yeah, sometimes when you plug into something that means a lot to you, then it has a better chance of meaning something to other people. I've been working on an album for a long time, and in fact this was going to be a 6-month diversion originally, and it's ended up as a 2-year diversion. But there's still a lot of material that is near completion on the other record, so I will do a bit of promotion and travelling salesmanship around on this record, and then get back to finishing that off. We spent a lot of time sort of mulling over different titles. One of the ideas was to try and fish the name for the baby, for the future, out of the human face. And so the 2 I's were the 2 O's, and the V, you know, well, there was some speculation whether it was going to be the nose, it might be a bit bird-like, or whether it's a sort of an eyebrow, bushy eyebrow, but that was the first idea for the Ovo name. So Ovo is not a new soap powder, it's not a gravy additive, but it's a new record, and it's the work that I've been doing for the last 2 years, basically on the show in the Millennium Dome in London.